So how good are the handheld gaming PCs as a gaming console? Essentially, the companies sell them and advertise them as a gaming console, but in reality, they're much more like a laptop in the body of a gaming console, like the Asus ROG Ally here. So after using this for some time now, how good is it as a just straight gaming handheld console? And while I believe these devices should not have been just set to be just a console, because they're so versatile, you can literally do anything a PC can. It's just so good for versatility, and you can even edit videos on this. It's literally just a PC, a laptop in the body of a console. So let's focus on the gaming console part of it, essentially. These handheld PCs are definitely much stronger than the traditional handheld console like a Nintendo Switch. Thanks to this, you can play more demanding games. Pretty much any game you think about can be played on a handheld like this. But with great power comes the power-hungry nature of these consoles. Essentially, while you have the better games on it, they're not going to last as long as on something like a Nintendo Switch. Because of that, you have a trade-off of quality over quantity of gaming. Essentially, if you're not close to a power outlet, you're going to have a much shorter gaming experience. But it's really dependent on who you are. For example, for me, I like to use this before going to bed and playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, for example, which I play on PS5, and I have the cross-save progression, and I can squeeze in like 40 extra minutes of playing before bed, and it's really comfy, you're just in your bed and playing a game, which is just something mind-boggling when you think about playing new modern games on a handheld like this. PC, Windows-based handhelds have the option of playing pretty much any game that is available on Windows, and you can even emulate different games. Essentially, you're not locked to a generation like the consoles, where you only have games for that generation, or maybe you have some backwards compatibility. Here, you can actually play any game from any generation. Essentially, if you want to play a 360 or a PS3 game, well, it's gonna run so much better on this, even compared to backwards compatible titles on different consoles. For example, I wanted to play Assassin's Creed Unity. Here I can play in 60 frames per second and also just have my settings be the way I want to. I have a lot of customization in terms of how I want the game to be. If you want to have 30 frames per second, go for it. If you want 40 or more, you can do different settings to make it look as good as possible while having the set amount of frames per second. Well, on backwards compatibility on different consoles, for example, the Ezio trilogy of Assassin's Creed games, well, on PS5 you're gonna play in 4K but in 30 frames per second, while on the Xbox Series X you're gonna play in Full HD in 60 frames per second. So it's always a trade-off. On this, you can set it to whatever you like, and you also can play the original one instead of the remastered versions of the games, and in them you can really set those games into any settings you want to. So if you want to play older games, like a backlog of your games, well, it is a great device for it. Better yet, I found myself that I want to play older games on it because I can make them look better. You can also mod them if you want to, because this is essentially a PC, but also because I just feel like having any game on this screen, on this kind of a device, you're playing AAA games on a device like this. Older games look so good because the screens are smaller, so you don't really see all the imperfections. Also, the older games run really nice on this stronger hardware that this provides. And overall, it's just like, the feeling of having like big games on it is something when you look back, when we were younger and we were playing on Game Boy Advance, for example, for me, and you were not even thinking about the pixels, barely anything really moved in those games, and we were really into them. This is like mind-boggling that we now have something a little bit bigger, but it's so much stronger that we can play the same games that we play on the consoles, which is really, really cool. But because this is a PC and because this is the nature of not a single native unit, essentially all the games are gonna play like on PC they would, which means you're gonna have to fiddle around with settings for each game individually to make it work as good as possible. Where on console normally you just put in a disc or a cartridge in terms of like a Nintendo Switch, and then you have the game running in the way it was made to be. But here, while you have more customization and more options, and for example some games are gonna run better than a console, some are not. Well, that also comes with a caveat of having to play around with settings, and that is not for everyone. So essentially you can play all of your games in really nice quality, even the older games, so high quality AAA games in the palm of your hand with you at any time. But you're gonna have to take your time to really set up all the games and everything to make them work the best they can possibly work. So there's a little bit of fiddling around with the settings. But because it's a PC in a body of a console, you have access to all the games from your Steam library, Xbox Game Pass, so it's really nice if you have any backlog on Steam, other launchers like the Ubisoft, EA, any other launcher, but also if you have Game Pass Ultimate, you can play the games from the Game Pass on it, which is really cool, and that is why I feel like these handhelds are the future. And with more time, I'm sure we're gonna see more optimization and just overall more people going for those consoles because they're really cool and they provide so much value. Because today I just focus on the gaming aspect of it, but they're really a hybrid laptop which you can really play around. You can really use it like a desktop essentially at your home. And while being a desktop, you can just plug it out and go somewhere else on the couch and play video games, which is really cool. And because of that, I feel like these consoles literally have their own place, but I'm sure they're gonna be more mainstream and they really are amazing. So how do I rate it as a gaming console? I would definitely say it's a experience that is slightly different. If you're at least a little bit knowledgeable about how to set up the games in terms of like the settings in the game menu, then you're gonna be good to go. Or you're into tech, this is gonna be amazing. But if you want something that is plug and play, maybe this isn't the best choice for you, but it's a choice nonetheless. For me, the Asus ROG Ally is something that I just daily look at and I just smile when I see it because I know that I have something that can play AAA games in the palm of my hand. This is a dream come true for the little me inside that wished we could have bigger games on a handheld. Essentially, there are trade-offs to these handheld PCs. There's some really good strengths to it, while also some downsides depending on who you are and what you're looking for. But definitely, for me, I can highly recommend getting one because it really is such a cool piece of a device. And it's really cool in terms of like the idea of having something like this. If you have any more questions about handheld gaming consoles, let me know in the comment section down below. With that being said, it's gonna be the end of today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this video once again, and I'll see you next time.